And I'm here once again. We're at chapter 4 of 1 Kings. I think we left off at verse 33. Matter of fact, I'm sure of it. And he spoke of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springs out of the wall. He spoke also of beasts, and of fowl, and of creeping things, and of fishes. Notes. Now this means that his knowledge was not only speculative, but actually scientific. In his acquaintance with natural history, he outshone the Egyptians. He dealt with the least productions of nature as well as even their greatest. Verse 34, And there came of all the people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. Notes. Not only was Israel very greatly blessed, but every nation that took advantage of Solomon's wisdom was blessed as well. The great questions were brought to Solomon, and the answers were forthcoming, resulting in tremendous prosperity for all. Now, in the days of the coming kingdom age, when Jesus Christ rules and reigns in Jerusalem, all kings of the earth will come to him as well. Quite frankly, some very, very smart people will ask him questions. Anyways, chapter 5, well, scientist obviously, but we'll pick up chapter 5. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father, for Hiram was ever a lover of David. Notes. The Hiram during the time of Solomon was the son of Hiram, who reigned during the time of David. There was never a record of any type of conflict between Lebanon and Israel during the time of David or Solomon. The Hebrews were always at peace with the Phoenicians. They would now share in the great blessing of God that would come upon Israel. Hiram is a type of the Gentile kings, presidents, and world leaders of every sort during the kingdom age, basically, who will ever be lovers of the Lord Jesus Christ. Verse 2. And Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, You know how that David my father could not build an house unto the name of the Lord his God for the wars which were about him on every side, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. Notes. As far as verse 2 is concerned, according to Josephus, he wrote a letter, which together with Hiram's reply was preserved among the public archives of the city of Tyre. Don't know if those have ever actually been recovered before, but anyways, Hiram could not fail to know this, as his relations with David had been close and intimate as far as chapter 3, or verse 3 is concerned. Verse 4. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side, so that there is neither adversary nor evil occurrent. Notes. Now keep in mind, since the Garden of Eden, planet Earth has suffered and labored under the curse of sin. Satan has ruled as a prince of the powers of the air, very, very little disturbed. And the results have been chaos, murder, hatred, pain, starvation, war, pestilence, and all the results of sin. When Christ comes back, there will be rest on every side. And as well, there will be neither adversary nor evil occurrent. Sickness, suffering, starvation, and want will no longer be. For those of you people who want God out of our schools, please keep in mind that all of our blessings really come from Him ultimately, whether directly or indirectly. Verse 5. And behold, I propose to build an house unto the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord spoke unto David my father, saying, Your son, whom I will set upon your throne in your room, he shall build an house unto my name. Notes. An old preacher by the name of Spence has written, He thus gives Hiram to understand that he is carrying out his father's plans, and plans which had the divine sanction, and that this is no fanciful project of some young upstart. Verse 6. Now therefore command thou that they hew me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servants shall be with your servants, and unto you will I give hire for your servants, according to all that you shall appoint. For you know that there is not among us any who can skill to hew timbers like unto the Sidonians. Notes. The Zidonians constructed their houses of wood and were pretty darn good at it from the earliest times as skillful builders with wood, and even some stone. Verse 7. And it came to pass, when Hiram heard the words of Solomon, that he rejoiced greatly, and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, which has given unto David a wise son over this great people. Notes. From the historic accounts, there seems to be no record that Hiram had accepted Jehovah, but that he did believe that Jehovah existed, and used language here that he knew would be acceptable to Solomon. Well, it is kind of a shame, as so many others, he shot so high, but he didn't hit the target. He came so close, but not close enough. Anyways, continuing. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have considered the things which you sent to me for, and I will do all your desire concerning timber of cedar, and concerning timbers of fir. Note. Now it is also said that the art of writing was communicated to the Greeks by the Phoenicians, but anyways, verse 9. My servant shall bring them down from Lebanon unto the sea, and I will convey them by sea in floats unto the place that you shall appoint me, and will cause them to be discharged there, and you shall receive them. And you shall accomplish my desire in giving food for my household. Notes. Well, obviously this was no small task, considering the huge timbers from Lebanon to Israel that would be quite some task. This was at least one of the reasons that this temple, which would be built by Solomon and his instructions, would be the most expensive building ever constructed. Well, I should have to take that back. Solomon's plannings weren't actually it, but he conveyed the work, God gave him the instructions, and he obeyed them. Continuing. So Hiram gave Solomon cedar trees and fir trees according to all his desire. And Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat for food in his house, and 20 measures of pure oil. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year. Now, the wheat would be about 4,000 bushels, and oil would have been about 60 gallons. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year. So long as the construction lasted, and it's possible that the agreement may have been for a still longer period, the oil and the bushels of wheat kept on coming. Needless to say, that was quite a harvest right there. Verse 12. And the Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they two made a league together. Notes. In other words, they made a covenant. Hiram did not have nearly the wisdom that Solomon had, but he had enough sense to look to the one who had the wisdom. Okay? So he was at least smart enough to wisen up whenever he couldn't do it himself. Verse 13. And King Solomon raised a levy out of all Israel, and the levy was 30,000 men. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month by courses. A month they were in Lebanon, and 2 months at home. And Adoniram was over the levy. Verse 15. And Solomon had 70,000 who bore burdens, and 80,000 hewers in the mountains. Notes. That'd be 70,000 and 80,000. Anyways, total of 150,000. They were not Israelites, but Canaanites. And we learn that from 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 17 through 18, that all the strangers who were in the land of Israel were subjected to forced labor by Solomon. These occupied a very different position from that of the 30,000 Hebrews. And we'll cover that whenever we finally get to it. Verse 16. Beside the chief of Solomon's officers, which were over the work, 3,003 people, or 3,300, which ruled over the people who wrought in the work. And we'll pick up in chapter 5, verse 17. Thank you, and God bless.